Alright, let's talk about something we all use, even if we don't always realize just how much it shapes our day-to-day lives. It's called Microsoft 365, and you can think of it as a massive digital toolbox for your computer, your phone, and even your tablet. Imagine you have a box with all the tools you need for work or school: Microsoft Word for writing, Excel for crunching numbers, and Outlook for keeping your emails organized. This digital toolbox is super popular because it helps people get their jobs done every single day, whether they're in a bustling office or working from home. Millions of people, from students in classrooms to employees at huge companies, rely on it to stay productive and connected. But Microsoft 365 isn't just about writing documents or making charts. It also includes powerful tools like Microsoft Teams, which lets you chat, call, and hold virtual meetings with anyone, anywhere. The best part is that it lives in the cloud, a giant, super safe storage locker on the internet that keeps your files protected and always within reach. You can access your work from anywhere, at home, in a coffee shop, while traveling, or even right from your phone when you're on the go. This kind of flexibility and convenience is a big reason why so many people love Microsoft 365 and depend on it every day. It keeps your important stuff safe and accessible, no matter where you are or what device you're using. In many ways, it's the engine that powers so much of our daily work, learning, and communication, quietly running in the background. It's the quiet helper that lets us send emails, join meetings, share files, or finish projects on time, often without us even thinking about it. It's woven into the fabric of our modern lives, helping us be productive, stay in touch, and collaborate with others, whether we're at work or at home. That's why, when something goes wrong with it, a lot of people notice right away, because it's become such a crucial part of how we get things done. And that's exactly what happened on a recent Thursday morning, which we're going to get into next. So let's see what went down. So, picture this. It's a day that starts out just like any other, with the world slowly coming to life as the sun rises. People are stretching, making coffee, and getting ready to dive into their daily routines. It's Thursday, October 9th, 2025. A date that, for many, would soon become unforgettable for all the wrong reasons. People all over the world are waking up, ready to start their workday. Laptops are opening, notifications are pinging, and the digital world is supposed to be humming along as usual. But on this particular morning, something was wrong. Very wrong. Instead of the usual flurry of emails and messages, there was an eerie silence. Instead of their familiar inbox, many saw error messages. They couldn't log in. Passwords were rejected, screens froze, and nothing seemed to work. It was like showing up to your office and finding the doors were locked. No matter how many times you tried, you just couldn't get in. This all started very early, around 7:40 in the morning UTC. For some, it was just the beginning of their day, but for others, it was already a critical time. For people in Europe and Africa, this was right at the beginning of their business day. Offices were opening, meetings were about to start, and deadlines were looming. Imagine the confusion. You have a big presentation, and you can't open your slides. Maybe you're about to join a crucial video call, but the app just won't load. It was a moment of collective digital panic. All across offices and homes, people were scrambling for answers, wondering if it was just them or something much bigger. People started asking their coworkers, "Is your Teams working?" And the answer was a resounding no. The problem was everywhere, and nobody seemed to have a solution. To get an idea of how many people were affected, we can look at Downdetector. This website tracks outages and disruptions in real time, giving us a sense of the scale. On that Thursday morning, the reports started flooding in. It wasn't just a handful of people, it was thousands, then tens of thousands. At the busiest time, there were over 17,000 reports. The spike was sharp and sudden, showing just how widespread the problem was. It was a massive disruption, a complete shutdown of essential tools. Work ground to a halt, and productivity vanished in an instant. People couldn't access Microsoft 365, which means no Word, Excel, or PowerPoint. Even the most basic tasks became impossible. They couldn't get into Outlook, so no emails were coming in or going out. Communication was cut off, leaving teams in the dark. And Microsoft Teams, the virtual office for so many, was silent. No chats, no calls, no collaboration, just a blank screen. It was a sudden, unexpected halt to the workday for a huge number of people. For many, it felt like the digital world had simply stopped turning. You might be wondering if this problem was happening everywhere. The answer is that while the effects were felt worldwide, the problem was most intense in specific regions. The main areas hit hardest were in Europe, Africa, and the Middle East. The outage struck right as their workday was kicking into high gear. Businesses were opening, meetings were scheduled, and suddenly everything ground to a halt. Even though the core of the problem was centered in Europe and Africa, the ripple effects were global. Companies with teams across continents found they couldn't communicate. The problem affected a whole suite of Microsoft's services. It wasn't just one program that stopped working. It was a domino effect. Exchange Online and the Azure portal were also inaccessible. This global impact shows just how connected we all are in this digital age. A technical issue in one part of the world can instantly affect someone thousands of miles away. Okay, so we know that everything stopped working. But why? What could have caused such a massive disruption, affecting millions of people and businesses all at once? Microsoft's engineers quickly traced the problem to something called the Azure Front Door, or AFD, a critical piece of their cloud infrastructure. Think of the Azure Front Door as the main entrance to a giant, popular building where everyone has to pass through to get to their destination inside. On this day, that main entrance had a major problem. It was as if the doors suddenly jammed, leaving everyone stuck outside. A huge part of its capacity was suddenly lost, making it impossible for the system to handle the usual flood of requests. The system that was supposed to direct all the user traffic to services like Outlook and Teams simply couldn't keep up with the demand, leaving users frustrated and disconnected. It lost a lot of its ability to manage the flow of data, especially for users in Europe and Africa, where the impact was felt the hardest. The engineers dug deeper and discovered the issue was related to something called Kubernetes instances. These are like the brains behind the scenes, orchestrating how everything runs. Imagine that behind each of those main doors in our mall, there's a little robot helper, working tirelessly to keep things moving smoothly. On this day, a bunch of these robot helpers just stopped working, leaving the doors unmanaged and the flow of people completely disrupted. When these little robot helpers failed, the doors they were managing couldn't operate correctly, causing a chain reaction of problems throughout the system. This caused a significant breakdown in the entire system, leaving engineers scrambling to restore order and get things back online. It wasn't a virus or a hacker, it was an internal technical problem, one that no one saw coming, but that had huge consequences. The system that was designed to be strong and reliable had a weak moment, reminding us that even the most advanced technology can have unexpected failures. Let's dive a little deeper into this Azure Front Door thing. Microsoft's Azure Front Door is a content delivery network, or CDN. It's a system designed to make your internet experience faster and more reliable. When you try to access something like your email, a CDN directs you to the closest, fastest server. The problem on October 9th was that a big part of this delivery network lost a significant amount of its power. The system that was supposed to efficiently route all the requests became overwhelmed. There just wasn't enough healthy infrastructure left to handle the immense volume of people trying to log in. Users' requests to access their services were essentially hitting a digital brick wall. The front door that was supposed to welcome them in was effectively closed for business. As soon as this huge problem started, alarms were going off inside Microsoft. The company has teams of engineers on standby 24/7, all around the world. Their first step was to let everyone know they were aware of the problem. They posted updates on their official status page and Service Health dashboard. These initial messages are important because they let users know the problem isn't on their end. Microsoft's communication team started providing regular updates. Meanwhile, engineers were in a race against time. They identified the problem with the faulty Kubernetes instances and knew what they had to do. The first action was to restart the systems that had failed. They also rerouted all the user traffic away from the problematic infrastructure. Fixing a problem of this size isn't like flipping a single switch. It's a careful, step-by-step process. After restarting the broken systems and rerouting traffic, they started to see positive signs. The digital traffic jam began to ease up. They initiated something called a failover, moving the service to a separate, healthy set of servers. Slowly but surely, people started to notice that things were coming back to life. On the Downdetector website, the huge spike of user reports started to drop. Around 3:07 p.m. Eastern Time, the number of reports had fallen significantly. Microsoft continued to provide updates throughout this process. By about 12:33 UTC, 96% of the affected services and users had been recovered. The digital doors were reopening, and the flow of work and communication could resume. Finally, Microsoft gave the official all clear. The crisis was over, and the engineers had successfully restored the digital infrastructure. Now, here's a twist in the story that makes it even more interesting. This massive outage on Thursday wasn't a completely isolated event. It was actually the second major disruption to Microsoft's services in just 2 days. The outage on Wednesday also affected Microsoft 365 services worldwide. While the company fixed that specific problem, another outage the next day raised questions. These back-to-back incidents were unusual for a typically reliable service. It serves as a reminder that even the biggest tech companies can face challenges. So, after a very stressful Thursday for many, the story has a happy ending. Thanks to the hard work of the engineers at Microsoft, all the services came back online. Everything from Outlook and Teams to Word and Excel was working properly again. People could finally send their emails, join their meetings, and get back to their projects. The digital world, which had been at a standstill for hours, was humming along once more. It's important to remember that while these outages can be frustrating, they are also quite rare. Microsoft 365 handles an incredible amount of data and activity every single second. The fact that it works so well most of the time is actually pretty amazing. In the end, the problem was identified, a solution was put in place, and the service was restored. Microsoft was transparent about the process, keeping users informed along the way. The great Microsoft 365 outage of October 2025 is over. Everything is working just as it should.